Welcome to GothCast, episode 36. I am Dr. Sanders.
This is Robbie Gore.
And today we're going to be talking about some sort of synth pop music.
They're a synth pop band.
Definitely influential in the genre, but a lot of people think of them as pop. A lot of people think of them as kind of dark.
A lot of people group them into post-punk, which I think they fall more into new wave and synth pop.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange placement for this band in terms of music. And I actually want to talk about the difference between how they categorize in America and England. But it's Depeche Mode.
Yes.
Yeah. So Depeche Mode, if you're into goth music, you'll know that there's a lot of people who post Depeche Mode songs and really love them and love their sound, especially the album Violator. And a lot of their less early work, not a lot of their just can't get enough sort of era stuff, Speak and Spell sort of stuff. But the band changed their sound over time to definitely a lot darker, a lot more serious than they were in the beginning. But it is kind of strange how this band was categorized and the differences between the countries, because in America, they were actually grouped more with the goth scene.
Yeah.
You know, like whenever they were coming over here, and really they didn't get super popular until about 85 or something here.
Mm-hmm. So
they'd had a few darker songs. And so they're like, oh, well, this must be goth music, you know, as keyboards and synths and stuff. And it's kind of moody.
Yeah.
So it's not hair metal. And so a lot of people group them in with the gothic music. But then in England, they were actually seen as more of a pop band.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you look at the videos and all that stuff, and especially when they appeared on programs, it definitely seems like they're more in line with the teen idol sort of experience. But what really matters is, does the music hold up?
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we're going to be getting into today. So we're going to be talking about the first 4 albums from Depeche Mode.
Mm-hmm.
They were formed in 1980 in Essex, England, specifically Basildon, Essex.
Oh.
Martin Gore, obviously, is the most famous member of the band.
Well, next to Dave Gahan. Kinda, yeah.
But so, the original lineup consisted of Dave Gahan on lead vocals, and he was occasional songwriter since 2005, so not till much later.
Yeah.
Martin Gore, keyboards, guitar, vocals. He was the chief songwriter for the band. Then you had Andy Fletcher on keyboards, as well as Vince Clarke again on keyboards. They all pretty much play keyboards.
Yeah.
But so we're going to begin with their debut album, which is Speak and Spell, which was released in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Their official, formation date is 1980, but they were working as early as 1977.
Mm-hmm.
But once they finally had a stable lineup, they put out their debut album, which is Speak and Spell. And this is actually the only Depeche Mode album to feature Vince Clarke as a member of the band. And Clarke wrote most of the songs for the band for this release, before he left. And so I think that's the biggest reason why, as we're talking about these albums today, we're going to see a big shift in sound, especially going from this album just to the next album. Yeah,
Alan's songwriting is way different, Alan and Gore, as opposed to Clarke.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I mean, in my opinion, I really like the way Depeche Mode developed over time. Clarke went on to do, was it Yazoo, that group?
Yep.
Which is way more, still electronic and everything like that. So if you want to see more of him, then you can look up that group. I think they're called Yaz in America. I think they have that song Situation. Situation.
Yep.
There is also some demo stuff you can find for it. There's a song Photographic, which they had done for a compilation album, or an album called Some Bizarre. And then they had the song Photographic was re-recorded for Speak and Spell.
Yeah.
They also had a demo tape and a whole bunch of stuff. You can find most of that stuff online now if you're interested. But as for the album Speak and Spell, their 1981 debut, it is very 80s.
Yeah, so this is very much why they initially got thrown into the synth pop categorization. Mm-hmm. And, rightfully so, because this is a synth pop album. It's very heavy on the keyboards. Pretty much all the songs are upbeat, pretty much exclusively major keys.
Yep.
Very funky kind of songs, very dancey songs. Everything is pretty lighthearted on this album.
Yeah, and that's what the biggest difference is between even their next album, is that this album is pretty much a fun time all the way through.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's actually really good. I really like this album. And if anybody's talked to me about my opinions on keyboard music, actually Depeche Mode is one of my favorite bands related to the synth pop genre.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite 80s bands of all time. I think they did some great stuff, and I loved even when they did the Devotional tour, and yeah, it is great. And so Speak and Spell is not my favorite album from them, not even from this era.
Yeah.
And that's mostly because it just doesn't appeal to my taste or in as much as their other stuff does. It's almost like Depeche Mode doesn't really have what I think is a bad album from around this time.
No, not at all.
It's just they're different.
Yeah, that's partially due to the fact that Vince Clarke wrote all the songs except for Tora 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 and Big Muff, which were written by Martin Gore.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Vince Clarke writing, they really were kind of just appealing to pop sensibilities and trying to get radio play, and obviously everybody's heard the song "Just Can't Get Enough." Yeah, which is pretty indicative of what this album sounds like.
That's very true, and so I just don't even hear. I know it's weird to think that because I was never really a big fan of this album. When I was getting into Depeche Mode. Yeah. So when I think of Depeche Mode, I definitely do not think of Just Can't Get Enough. But
yeah, I remember. Because when I first listened to Depeche Mode, I had heard Just Can't Get Enough, but I didn't know it was Depeche Mode because I had heard all their later material. And then I remember finding out that they wrote that song, and I was like, that's Depeche Mode?
Yeah. Actually, the single that got me into Depeche Mode was actually Shake the Disease. Yeah. And so I was like already kind of familiar with their more like little bit spookier material. But Just Can't Get Enough. I remember being like looking up all this stuff and being like, that band plays that song? Yeah. Like that same band?
Well, it's almost, not quite as drastic, but it is almost comparable to Al Jorgensen and Ministry. Yeah. Their first album.
True. I didn't think about that.
Very, very much a synth pop kind of album.
Yeah, With Sympathy is a very good comparison. It's not that much of a jump. Ministry went from playing discotheques to like eating your brains.
Yeah, like I said, not a complete parallel comparison.
But yeah, I get it. Yeah. So this album is much more pop oriented. It has a very 80s sound, and by a very 80s sound, I mean the keyboards are very dry sounding. There's not a lot of reverb. There's not a lot of, if you know what I'm talking about, attack on the drums. Yeah. So it means that's very like 80s drum pad sounding, like electronic, like book, yeah, kind of like very dancey. In terms of the mix of these songs, and I'm just gonna get it out because all songs pretty much mix exactly the same. Yeah. Is that I wanted there to be more bass on this album.
I could see that. It didn't really bother me. I'm a mid-range kind of guy, and there's a lot of mid-range on this album.
A ton. Yeah. It's pretty much all mid. Yeah. But yeah, they fixed this with pretty much every release after that. You just give it a fuller sound. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the way they mixed it is actually the reason it sounds so 80s. Yeah. Because Dave's voice is very up front, and it's
already very mid-range to begin with.
Very Duran-Duran-y kind of sound. And all the keyboards just are kind of just layered on top of one another. It's a very basic album, but that's actually what's so good about this album is it takes very simple melodies, it takes very simple keyboard parts and very simple lyrics and mixes them all together into these really good, almost like kind of like, I wouldn't say lullabies, but it's very simplistic in what it does, but does it really well.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think the strong suit of this album is that it has very simple songs, but they're all, for the most part, pretty catchy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It may not be everyone's taste. Obviously, if you like darker music and you are not as open to synth poppy kind of things, this is leaning pretty hard towards the synth pop side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not into... Like, say if you were into, it's hard to even say. Just a few albums later, even Construction Time Again is darker than this one, or has like more.
Even the next album was darker than this one.
Yeah, but I feel like if you listen to the next one, then you could make the parallel. Oh, the point is, it's different.
Yeah, we'll get to that album.
If you're a fan of Violator, and you go into this, right after that, you're gonna be like, "What the heck is this? It's so poppy." But songs like New Life, I Sometimes Wish I Was Dead. Photographic is really good. Like I love all the songs. I think New Life is a great opener.
Yeah, New Life is really good.
Love it.
I actually really like Big Muff. I don't know. I like some of the cheesier songs like Puppets and Boy Say Go.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, I don't know. They're fun to listen to.
Yeah.
They're definitely different from what's going to come. But, there's not a lot that I dislike on this album.
Yeah, because it doesn't try a whole bunch of things.
I will say the only thing that I really am tempted to skip anytime this album comes on is Just Can't Get Enough.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, it's because I'm just sick of it. Like,
I know it gets played on every 80s radio station.
And while I haven't listened to it myself, I never put the song on myself.
Yeah,
it's every movie that's supposed to represent the 80s, every commercial that's supposed to represent the 80s, it's just a song that is representative of that decade.
If you listen to any oldies or classic rock station, the second they start playing 80 songs, they're going to play that song.
Yeah. It's got also with that Simple Minds, whatever, Don't You Forget About Me.
Yep.
Same kind of thing.
And also the Eurythmics always gets played with this
Sweet
too.
Dreams.
Yep.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. That's pretty much the only song I skip. But yeah, this album doesn't do a ton of different things, but what it does, it basically does really well. And that's totally why I would recommend it is, an album doesn't have to be, the end all be all concept album to be a great album.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of that. This album is extremely simple, uses very simple mixing, very simple structures, but it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. It really is an album that excels in its simplicity while maintaining a standard of quality that is very enjoyable, very acceptable. These are fun songs. This isn't the serious album. This isn't going to be an album that makes you cry or that you run home and say it changed my life or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe it is for someone.
I don't know. Never know with music.
But it is a really fun album to listen to, and the songs do what they're supposed to do really well, and that they are dance songs and they are party songs, and that's what people use them for. And so I think that this album excels in all those regards.
Yeah. Other piece of trivia about this album, of course, it's named after the Speak and Spell, the toy. Speak and Spell, where you punch in A, B, C, and go, try and read bad or something like that. I love the album cover. The album art is awesome for it. It actually reminds me of there's some metal album or something like that from the 80s. It has that sort of reddish glow fiery thing. I can't remember I think it was an Ozzy album or something like that.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Sin. It looks like, I think they look similar, but
it kind of also looks like Meatloaf album.
Oh yeah, it totally does. And then a piece of trivia about when they played on Top of the Pops, because they did appear on Top of the Pops for this album. They actually had to take the train to get to the studio, so they had to lug all their equipment on the train to the Top of the Pops studio, which I thought was really funny.
By the way, lugging synths around, especially synths from this time, is awful.
Heavy, and
yeah,
it's just so you can imagine that'd be really funny if you're on a train to see Depeche Mode. Hey, you're on a train, we're gonna be on Top of the Pops in 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So. But Speak and Spell, I totally recommend it. It's a great album. Just know what you're getting into. It's very poppy and very synth heavy, and it's a little bit different than the rest of the material.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's an album I recommend. I don't recommend it to people if they really only like Depeche Mode's darker material. But like you said, know what you're getting into. This is a pop album.
Yep. Welcome to Recent Interesting Goth Stuff,
aka Riggs.
And today we have a few random weird stories. First of all, in movie news, because it's getting towards October and there's tons of different things coming up. Of course, horror movies, most of them come out now and October, and some of them come out in December.
Yeah.
But we have...
Well, for starters, we have the announcement of basically what is aiming to be the Netflix of horror films.
Yeah.
Which is a service called Shudder.
Yep.
I currently have it right now, and still kind of figuring out where it's gonna go. But it's a very interesting idea. Very much, it has a similar layout to Netflix, but I think if they just organize things a little bit better, I think it'll be a significantly better service. And I'm interested to see all the cool titles that are coming to or will be coming to this particular service. And there's one title in particular that we're very interested in.
Yes, and I think it will be might be the big one for Shudder, at least the first big hit for people to get it, is Sadako versus Kayako. And if you don't know what that makes, it doesn't make any sense to you, it's The Ring versus The Grudge.
Yes.
Or
the
Ju-on.
Japanese versions.
Yeah. So The Grudge is called Ju-on in its original release, and of course Ringu. But that's the two characters from that. So it's basically Freddy versus Jason of like creepy little girl horror films.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Sadako versus Kayako. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah.
Very, very excited for this. I'm a huge fan of the Ju-on series. There's a lot more films than have been released in America. And I'm not talking about the Sarah Michelle Gellar ones.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the original ones. I know that The Grudge was remade.
Yeah.
And it has its own sequel.
We're not talking about any of those films.
No, we're talking about the original versions of these films. And there's a whole bunch more of them that weren't released over here. And I just really find those movies very unsettling for me. And that's why I think is so much fun about them. I love the Ju-on series.
Yeah.
One of the creepiest movies to watch by yourself with headphones. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Not jump scares, is not like that kind of stuff. Not like modern horror movies.
No, very eerie, very just unsettling.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Ringu, in my opinion, it's not the best film. I saw the American one. I don't like the American one, but I have the original one.
Yeah.
And it's good. I
like Ringu, but
yeah, it's not my favorite like Asian horror movie, but it's good. I think it's a little long.
Yeah.
And it has a lot more like lulls, but the story's good.
Yeah.
And so these are two of the biggest horror icons of Asia, like,
yeah.
And it's just so cool that they're coming together. And of course, people always mix them up because they're very similar in some ways.
It very much is kind of like Freddy versus Jason happening.
Yes, very much so. And it already came out. I think it was in Japan or something, or China, and it was it wasn't even slated for a release here, like theatrically at all. And then Shudder picked up and bought the rights to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like going to be exclusively on there for who knows how long.
Yeah.
So I might have to like keep Shudder for a little bit. We might have to turn that on whenever it comes out.
Well, it's still on right now.
Yeah, see, he's got it right now. So unfortunately, I can't seem to find any easy to find information on when exactly it's going to be released in America.
Yeah, they haven't given the details for when the release will be. But Shudder is really in its infancy, so I expect it'll probably be a few weeks before it gets up there, probably at least a month.
Yeah, it says in Canada, if you're in Canada, there's going to be a premiere for Sadako vs. Kayako. And so there's some clips on specific sites and everything like that. But it's really strange. So it's later this year. They're just saying that it will be on Shudder at some point. But
yeah, I'm expecting probably like a November, December release.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can get it on before October, that'd be a great thing. But
Shudder really has just started and is actually, I think, a really cool thing to check out if you guys haven't already. It doesn't cost very much. I believe it's only $5 a month. It could be $6.
It's not bad.
But yeah, it's exclusively dedicated to horror titles. And I think that as they gain the rights to more films and as they better develop the actual app for it, I think it's going to be a huge thing, like especially for horror fans.
Yeah. So if you're looking for it, it's not Shutter, it's Shudder. SHUDDER.
Yeah, like the feeling you get when you watch a horror movie.
Yeah. So yeah, not like you're closing your shutters.
Yeah.
So
Not like your camera shutter.
exactly, yeah. So take a look at that if that sounds interesting to you. It's definitely going to be like I'm going to definitely talk about it.
Yep.
So that's our first news story. In our second news story, I want to talk about this because kind of leading in from horror movies is I'm a huge Trauma fan.
Yeah.
And people who don't know what Trauma is, I know there's a lot of people who don't understand Trauma. I know some people are like, this is the best segment you guys have ever done right now, because we're mentioning it. Trauma is this really, it's one of the only really independent film companies.
Yep.
And they do these crazy ass movies about like these insane subjects.
They do very, I don't even know if you can call them B horror films, like almost like C horror films.
It's almost like C and D.
Yeah.
I mean, it's low budget. I mean, it's that's why. I mean,
it's the true low budget film.
They're 100% independent.
Yep.
Like, and they get literally financiers to do it. Not like it's not like oh, this is an indie film. It was. But then you look at what company produced it, and it's like, oh, this is Focus Features, and that's part of like Disney, or this is part of like Universal, just so that they can say that they're indie.
They are an interesting company in that they release a lot of their content to be watched for free.
Yeah.
Like they have a few of their movies up on YouTube that you can watch.
Yeah.
Documentaries are available. Documentaries, very interesting to watch. It very much gives you an idea, for those of you who are interested in the film industry, of what it's like to work on a set when there isn't a huge budget.
Yeah.
And the stresses and the trials of, that sort of situation.
Yeah. And I know that people who are aware of Trauma, they're like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, the documentary is actually all the behind the scenes stuff for Trauma, like the actual genuine behind the scenes stuff, not the stuff that they make up, is actually very interesting.
Yeah.
They just show like how, if you only have, $100,000 to make a movie, like how are you going to do it? Like, and it's like, okay, everyone's staying at an abandoned church.
Yeah.
Or like a church. And
you're going to work 18-hour days.
Yeah.
And
all this kind of stuff. And so, but their most famous thing and their icon, their logo, their mascot, everybody is Toxic Avenger. Toxie.
Yep.
Toxie. And so it's 4 movies. Yeah. And they're great. They're absolutely great. It's like totally the embodiment of Trauma. If you want to know what Trauma is, just watch the Toxic Avenger movies.
Yeah. I think one of the funnest parts about Trauma films is the incorporation of Trauma into everything in the films. So like the town is named Traumaville.
Trauma Health Center.
Yep.
Trauma
High.
Yeah, Trauma High. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's like been famous. I mean, it's famous for years. I mean, I forget when the last one came out, but the last one's Citizen Toxie. And so
Toxic Avenger is this film in which a mop boy essentially, gets thrown into a vat of toxic waste and gets transformed into this like monster who is
kind of a superhero.
Yeah, he
kind of helps people.
Well, he does help people, but not in the nicest of ways.
No, he also kills a lot of people.
He kills bad people.
Yeah.
So hence the name Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really, really interesting. If you're into gore or weird horror movies,
and
really
low budget special effects.
But a lot of charm.
I would say why I mentioned low budget special effects. I mean, a perfect example of that is a movie like The Evil Dead, which we love.
Oh yeah,
it's an incredibly low budget film.
The first one,
yeah,
the first one. Yeah, and it's great. It's great because of that. But yeah, the reason we're mentioning this and all this Trauma and kind of giving you a little backstory is that the Sausage Party director, that Seth Rogen movie, the director of that, he is going to do basically a remake or a mainstream version of the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
He said
which I think would actually be a good film for him, considering what Sausage Party was, because Sausage Party very much was basically a horror film set with
in some ways. I mean, it's actually weird because I've seen Sausage Party. And it is like there are those like really crazy moments. There are as many crazy moments as you would think. it's more a commentary on religion. It's so weird. It's like it was what people are literally calling the first atheist Hollywood film.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah, it's a interesting movie. I think it'll go down in history because of that. Weird movie, really weird movie. But yeah, I think the guy was Conrad Vernon.
But it has an aesthetic about it that is kind of like a horror aesthetic.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that's best, like that, the aesthetic for it is that it's really off the wall.
Yeah.
It's really creative.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what is going to be best about it. But
yeah,
the only thing that scares me about this is that it's supposed to be a more grounded in reality version.
Yeah. But then again, I suppose that's what a lot of modern audiences are going to want to see.
Yeah, that's true. They won't
especially
even
having not known what the Toxic Avenger is.
I know. I just don't want
it's not like the Evil Dead getting remade, or like that you're gonna have like a huge outcry of people who are like, oh, don't remake this classic film because
Toxic Avenger. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with this. I mean, there's already a lot.
I want to see it happen. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but either way, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll see it. I mean, I'll put it that way. So yeah, that Sausage Party director is gonna, or I think he's co-director or whatever. He's gonna make a new.
He's taking on the Toxic Avenger.
So we'll see. We'll give some updates if that ever happens. Yeah, it should be interesting. And tell us what your favorite Troma movie is. Probably a lot of people are gonna say Surf Nazis Must Die.
Yeah.
No one are fans. In our last story, I just want to talk about the fact that Peter Murphy's Facebook got hacked.
Yeah.
And he posted, it was like some really weird posts that were coming out. It was like, hold on. I guess that. Well, yeah, Peter Murphy. So Peter Murphy's page was coming up with like these weird, like, I am Peter Murphy, I am all, like, and it was all like alternating between caps and whatever. And the punctuation was all bad and the spelling was all terrible.
It looked like it was written either by someone who didn't speak English or someone who was really drunk.
Something like that, yeah. It was really, really weird. And then I guess a bunch of people told him, and then he's like, thank you for telling me. And then he got his Facebook back. One of our fans, actually, Bailey, I don't know. I'll just say Bailey because I don't know if she wants me to use the last name. But she actually alerted me to that, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, so that was interesting. Peter Murphy's Facebook got hacked this week.
Yep.
I think he just got it back like a day or two ago. So that's all for news.
Yeah. Or recent interesting
gossip. Riggs, a.k.a. Riggs. But it's so Ring, Grudge, Toxic Avenger, amazing. Peter Murphy, lots of good stuff.
Yep.
Tons of good stuff. So let's
get back to, we're going to have tons of stuff to look forward to as Halloween approaches.
Oh, man. Our news is going to be overflowing with stuff. So just look forward to that. And back to music. Okay, now we're on to Broken Frame. You know what's not broken?
A broken frame, if you want to get technical.
Sorry. You know what's not on a broken frame?
What?
Broken songwriting.
This is true. The songwriting, I would say, vastly improves for this album. And I think that is largely due to the fact that Martin Gore, who becomes their chief and primary songwriter, steps up. He writes every song on this album.
Yeah. And so this album, right at the bat, you'll notice that the very first song, Leave in Silence,
yep.
It has...
It's an immediate shift in tone.
Yeah. It feels much more serious.
It's very melancholic.
Yeah. Has this really full mix. This is what I love most about this album.
I'm completely going to agree with you here, is the way this album is mixed. Like, I feel like you just melt into it. Like, it's so beautiful.
It has this very lush sort of like layering of really thick sounding synths. And I really love it. It sounds great. And that was one of my only things that I was not the biggest fan of with the first album.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one definitely skews quite a bit from the pop formula of the last album.
Yeah, you have a lot of hooks that have kind of like little creepy influences on them.
Mm-hmm.
but the lyrics maintain like a certain sadness to them. And so it's this nice balance of like, I don't know, it's a wonderful exploration of darkness without getting too heavy or like too deep into it. And I think it was a perfect chronological step for them in their songwriting. Of course, it's not the same songwriter from the last album because we have the departure of Vince Clarke, who wrote all the songs on the last album except for 2. But yeah, Martin Gore, man, he's a damn good songwriter.
Yeah, exactly. And Alan Wilder, like who maybe you'll know, being in the band for a very long time, he was a part of the second tour.
Yeah,
but he actually wasn't in the band at this point, so
and he doesn't appear on the album.
Yeah. So
next album though.
Next album, yeah. But this album is awesome. I mean, it's so beautiful. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Coming from a songwriting background, the way the chord progressions work together and like the note selection and the arrangement and then the mixing on top of that, everything blends so perfectly. I always just described it as diatonic bliss. Like it's so good to listen to.
Is that how you describe it?
Yep.
Diatonic bliss.
Yep.
All right. I mean, I'll take that.
You just have these chord progressions that like just work so well. Like you have a line that you would think that's going to sound weird leading into the next line, but Martin Gore is so good at songwriting and voice leading that he can make any of these chord progressions work and just seamlessly flow between verses and choruses and bridges.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. A lot of this, I mean, pretty much the only 2 songs I don't like on this album actually are Monument and Shouldn't Have Done That.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on Monument. It's interesting, like the arrangement's cool. Yeah. One thing that really bothered me on it was the harmony.
Yeah.
Like it's something about that like just felt like it stuck out like a sore thumb. Like I could not get in that song.
Yeah.
I always thought Nothing to Fear was really cool because it had that like Eastern scale influence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love Leave in Silence, Nothing to Fear, See You. I know a lot of people like Satellite. I thought that was okay. But yeah, I
actually have to agree with you. In my notes, I wrote, not a bad song, just a bit dull.
Yeah.
The Meaning of Love, I felt like was a weird step towards the last album. So I didn't really feel like it belonged on the album as much. It was still a good song, but it didn't feel like it had the same vibe as the rest of the album. I don't know. There's so many songs that I do like on this album. Love My Secret Garden, love Leaving Silence. I really love See You just because it has a really, really interesting synth patch that I just fell in love with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's part of the reason that I geek out about Depeche Mode is because of all their synth like patches are like really interesting. But yeah, as far as anything that I don't like on this album, like it's probably mostly just Monument, Satellite. I would say probably like The Meaning of Love, like not crazy about, but I don't really hate it either. So I don't know. It's really just Monument and Satellite that I don't really like.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, pretty much Monument and Shouldn't Have Done That are the only 2 songs I'm not the biggest fan of. But everything else on this album, I think, is pretty good. It's got just enough depth to be really interesting.
Yeah.
But it still has some pop sensibility, obviously, because this is still like synth pop.
Yeah.
But it's kind of doing its own thing. It's getting a little bit deeper and a little more interesting to listen to, and just the fullness of the songs.
Yeah. The lyrical expression is much greater depth to it. It's
Dave's singing is like way better. Like it's less basic. It almost is like the first album. He's almost like talk singing a little bit, but I feel like in this one he puts a little more oomph into it.
I don't know. This album just feels a little more artistic to me, and
it's just every moment passing through the stars. Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
It really is a beautiful album, and it's one of my favorites of these 4 that we're going to be talking about today. And I even like the art for it a lot too.
Yeah.
It's just a depiction of I believe is a woman working in the fields, kind of.
You never know with
siping
synth pop.
away. Yeah, it could be a dude. I don't know. But it's you got kind of cloudy skies, and just this person who's slaving away.
Yep.
And I feel like that kind of fits the tone of the album.
Yeah. So I really recommend this album, and
I highly recommend this album.
So take a listen, and hope you enjoy it. It's Broken Frame. Okay. It's construction time.
Yep.
Again.
So this is the third studio album.
So 3 years, of course. It's the 80s, man. An album every year.
Yep.
And so
album clocks in at 49 minutes and 43 seconds.
Yep. And I gotta say, this is where I kind of find that there's a little bit of what I would say is kind of filler song on the album.
I really like this album because the songs that are great on it are great.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of inconsistency on this album.
Yeah, I totally think so. You have songs like Everything Counts, Love in Itself, More Than a Party, 2 Minute Warning, which I love.
Yeah.
I absolutely love. But then you have songs like Pipeline, songs like Shame, which I know some people like, but I don't like the song Shame. But Pipeline...
I really didn't like Pipeline. I kind of like Shame.
Told You So, like those songs, Pipeline, especially Pipeline, Told You So, and Shame, for me, I did not really like.
Yeah. I think the first half of the album, well, minus Pipeline, was really strong. And then the two Alan Wilder songs, which are 2 Minute Warning and The Landscape Is Changing, are kind of like where the strong points of the album are.
I think it's just a little bit spottier than the last album in terms of quality, but man, those good songs, so good.
Well, Everything Counts is another smash hit for Depeche Mode. I think NME wrote that it was Depeche Mode's greatest hit ever, and arguably one of the best written songs. And
it's great. I mean,
it's a beautiful song, and I love it. And it's a song that does still get a lot of radio play, but I don't get worn out on it the same way I do something like Just Can't Get Enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's another perfect example of Martin Gore's songwriting. And then to have an additional songwriter in Alan Wilder, who proves that, he can write a really good song. 2 Minute Warning is a beautiful song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. And I'm blown away by that, considering that, Martin Gore is pretty much their chief songwriter. And on especially for, fans of Violator, if you're a fan of the album, you basically are a fan of Martin Gore's songwriting because he wrote everything on that album. Yeah. But Alan Wilder also has this great charm about his songwriting, and
I think the two of them together is what really makes that sound like it's just great. And this album is really where you start to. I mean, you hear it on last album, but I think just the quality of the best songs on here are so good that it really carries over to the next albums. That's not to say that obviously we like the album before this, but I don't know. It's hard for me to pick which one I like more.
I'll say this. It's probably going to be different from your opinion. I do like the previous album more, and that is because I like the consistency of the album more. But the songs that I like off of this album, I absolutely love. And so I highly recommend this album, but I do have mixed feelings about it. There's songs on it that I, wouldn't care to listen to normally. Yeah. Whereas the last album, there wasn't a lot that I would necessarily want to hit skip on when I'm listening to.
I'll also say that some of the songs on here that I don't like, they're actually really long.
Yeah, I know.
That's one of the things that also bothered me. But actually, if you want to hear a really good version, like say you're sick of listening to Everything Counts a million times, if you look up actually the Devotional tour, which was years later, the version on that is really good too. It's a little bit darker. Yeah. And also the video for that is so insanely 80s. Yeah. Everything Counts is like so bad. But in a cheesy way. But the songs really do hold up. I love the way this album sounds. I love the use of sampling in this, where they have like these very mechanical sounds.
Yeah, there's almost an industrial influence that starts to show on this album and later albums as well.
Yeah, and I think this is really where you start to hear like a lot of the samples of using like like kind of real sounds and you know, kind of adjusting the tunes of them.
Yeah.
That's really cool, and it gives a different sound than the last album, and I really like that. And I think Dave's vocals are right on point, and the harmonies and everything.
Yep.
I just think that there could have been a little bit more consistency with this album.
Yeah.
Where this album is really good, but some of the songs could have been better. And like with Speak and Spell, like we said, pretty much all the songs are of the same quality.
Yeah, they're very consistent, but not as great.
Yeah.
The next album, I would say, very good songs, great consistency. Then you get this album, and you have amazing songs, but kind of a lack of consistency.
Yeah. So just pick your poison on that one. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick and choose. In some ways, I see them as equals. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but the point is I really like this album. I don't know about the album cover.
The album cover is not my favorite. It does look a little bit like it would be maybe like a Village People album cover.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. It looks like me. Right?
Yeah. That's
The guy's a little less muscular, though.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You've got a bigger hammer too.
That's true. But yeah, like this album is one of their more popular albums, obviously. I mean, you probably heard the song Everything Counts. And it's...
in large amounts.
Yeah, large amount. Well, everything counts in large amounts. So I would say take a listen to it. This is usually where people will still... I mean, even if you're into the darker side of Depeche Mode, people will still listen to like the singles from this album. And it seems like people who like Speak and Spell will also listen to this album. So it's kind of like that middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of... That's how I kind of see it. It is like kind of middle ground for some of their sound.
Yeah.
In terms of going into depth with certain things and then also still being really lighthearted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really like it. So I really recommend Construction Time again. Okay?
I would as well.
Yeah. Okay. Now we got something for you, people. We got some great reward for our fans.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, okay. So we're on to some great reward. Again,
So,
a year later.
yep. 1984.
So I see a real shift with this album in a much darker tone.
Yeah. Again, another album that is primarily written by Martin Gore.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Wilder has one track on the original listing for the album, which is If You Want. It was re-released later, included the song In Your Memory, which is also written by Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see this as being much more a Martin Gore arrangement and kind of score. And it almost kind of reminds me of the second album in that everything is very kind of melancholic. And
Everything counts in large amounts, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I can only do that with this episode. Yeah, this album is really where I think they start to be almost like industrial.
Yeah, they very much move towards like a dark wave kind of sound. Like
a lot more minor keys, which means it's a lot more, more melancholic and less happy.
Yeah.
Especially with the sampling from the last album, and then on here, there's a lot of that too. It's really just a darker sound, and it works so well right from the beginning. It always feels like Depeche Mode tries to set up their albums like with the opening track, you know, to kind of give you an idea of what the album's going to be like. And Something to Do is a great opener. It's a lot heavier than pretty much anything else they had done before it, and that sets up a lot of this album. While there are some happier songs or slower songs, like Somebody, I just find that most of this album is a lot heavier.
Well, especially something like a song like People Are People, which is not necessarily heavy melodically, but the vocal content is, it's rather dark.
Yeah.
And so is most of the vocal content for this album. A lot of the lyrics deal with darker issues. It really is an album that pushes them into a much darker, somber kind of tone.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about it. And of course, I would say probably some of our fans, knowing them, they would probably be like, it's a little bit sexier.
Yeah.
in a way. A little more suggestive. Just in terms of the, the
master and servant.
Yeah. Which is not actually a song I really like on this album. I know a lot of people love that song, but I don't really like that song.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites.
I just don't like the way it's put together, or basically, I don't really like anything about it. Honestly, the thing about this album is it does have strong songs. Like, it really does.
Yeah.
But I just find that to my particular taste, I don't like them as much.
Yeah.
You know, even the bigger songs, like People Are People, I've never liked that song.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same appeal as something like Everything Counts.
I just don't like the chorus. Like, the people are people, but how can it be? I just never liked the way that sounded live. I never.
Yeah, for me, this album, I think I found myself enjoying a lot of the songs that weren't hits for this album.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Like Something to Do.
Lie to Me was
Lie to Me. It Doesn't Matter.
Stories of Old.
Yeah, Stories of Old.
Oh, the ending. Oh, about Blasphemous Rumors. Such a good ending. 6.5 minutes long.
If You Want, Alan Wilder's composition is another great track on there. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Somebody, Master and Servant, or People Are People. Like,
Somebody, I know that we're going to get probably some flack for not liking Somebody. Not liking Somebody. That sounds weird.
That I like.
Not liking the song Somebody.
I don't hate the song. It's just not my favorite song on the album.
Exactly. It's not my favorite either. It's a ballad.
It's not really my taste.
Yeah, it's softer. It's got Martin Gore singing. If you see the video, But
if you watch any of their videos,
I know their videos were very 80s, but I just never connected with that song, so it's hard for me. But I gotta say, like, Blasphemous Rumors almost makes this album worth it for me, because I just think that song is amazing. Like, a great way to end the album. In fact, Something to Do is a great way to open it. Blasphemous Rumors is the best way to end it.
Yep.
But the other songs, Lie to Me, Stories of Old, I really do like them, and I like the really chunky kind of mechanical sound to some of the album, the more industrial sound to it, which is really just great. I mean, I think they did it perfectly, especially if you listen, like the transitions between them.
Yeah.
I think that this was the right thing to do. I think they did it really well, and I get it. There is some happier stuff on it. There's some darker stuff on it, but it just, everything works. The industrial stuff works. The more synth poppy stuff works. The piano stuff works. So I can't recommend this album enough if you want that kind of like sweet spot kind of to it. But I also recommend Construction Time Again, because it has a ton of great songs too, but it's a little less heavy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to pick an album that I like the best of. It's definitely between the latter three. Yeah, for me at least. Like you said, it's again kind of like Construction Time Again, where there's certain songs that really stand out to me on this album. But yeah, then again, I love the consistency of the second album, and I've just always been drawn to A Broken Frame. Maybe it's just me, but I always go back and listen to the album. I there's something about it that I like. Like there's it's like they're just entering kind of their more darker material, but everything is done so well, and it's kind of just nice to see a band at their roots like figuring things out. And so I think it has some sort of nostalgia for me in that sense. But I still I would highly recommend this album as well.
Oh yeah, totally. And yeah, I can't sum up any better than just check it out. I mean, it's like, check out all these albums. They're all good in their own ways, and hopefully us kind of explaining the differences between them can help you find the one that's right for you of these albums. Of course, more people are familiar with their later work, but for these albums, hopefully you can find which one's right for you, whether you like the poppier stuff or the more industrial stuff. But yeah, next time we're going to be covering the Black Celebration to Songs of Faith and Devotion. But that's all for this episode.
I did want to mention
what
this album. Well, it's re-release.
Oh, okay.
So in 2006, Some Great Reward got re-released with a bonus DVD. The CD was remastered for the release. It was released on a CD/SACD hybrid, and the bonus DVD includes the B-sides "In Your Memory," which was the other Alan Wilder song, which was going to be on the album but didn't end up making the cut. It also includes the song "Set Me Free," as well as a remix of Somebody and several live versions of the songs from the album. And it has a DVD, which is a documentary of the making of the album, which is actually, I would say, kind of a cool thing to watch
Yeah.
and to kind of get into their minds at the time and
Yeah.
what was going on. So if you're a fan of Depeche Mode, I would say it's worth checking out that re-release.
Definitely. They have a lot of good DVDs, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We were kind of in the Depeche mood.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. And so next time we're going to be covering the next 4 albums. I really love Depeche Mode. And this was actually one that took us a while to get to just because we weren't sure. Like, some people don't consider Depeche Mode enough of a goth staple to be able to cover, like, and our fans were kind of like, oh, they're more pop or they're more this. But
we got so many overwhelming requests for this band.
I know. So it's like, eventually we're just like, okay, like, even if some people don't consider it goth, it's like, I love Depeche Mode. And,
and we were planning on doing this episode eventually.
Yeah.
Once we saw how many people actually wanted to hear this episode, we were like, okay, we'll definitely do a Depeche Mode episode.
So if you want, just all those people, we finally did the episode. Quite a few people. But this has been episode 36 of GothCast. I am Dr. Sanders.
And I'm Robbie Gore.
And GothCast is, of course, brought to you in part by The Belfry.
The Belfry, bringing you everything you could need to know, whether you're new to the scene or a veteran of the society. They have Gothic podcasts, YouTube channels, and blogs, and it is run by The Count.
That's right.
And, of course, you can find all that content at
www.thebelfry.rip. That's www.belfry.rip.
Yep.
And as far as social media, we have Facebook, which is GothCast. We have an Instagram, which is just GothCast.
Yep.
We have a Tumblr, which is gothcast.tumblr.
Yep.
We have
a YouTube channel, which is GothCast Space Video.
Oh, if you want to see me grow some little monster type things, little monster.
Yeah, we actually just released a new video.
Yeah.
Growing monsters with Dr. Sanders.
That's right. Yeah. I found these really weird capsule things, and oh my God, they were so gross.
Yeah, they're essentially, you're kind of like sort of party favor, like watch them grow type thing, but with the Halloween theme to them.
Yep. So that was really fun. And then we also have a Twitter.
Yep.
Which is _GothCast_. I'm going to fix that. It's going to be GothCast official soon or something like that.
People keep trying to take our GothCast stuff.
So weird. Yeah. We talked about that on Cemetery Confessions. Oh, if you didn't happen to check our Cemetery Confessions episode, you can do that by going to the Belfry, thebelfry.ip, checking out Cemetery Confessions, the podcast, and then we were actually on the show. So we were on Cemetery Confessions episode 33. Yeah, so
officially, it's episode 34. You can look it up on iTunes. For those of you who use it, it's 33.
Yeah. So you can check that out if you want to see us in a very casual light, kind of.
Yeah.
Because we're buddies at the Count, so, we got a little bit crazy. So you can check out all that social media and all that stuff.
Of course, our website, we should probably mention, is gothcastradio.com. No www, because why would we do that? And our Gmail is gothcastradio@gmail.com.
Yep.
And so you're welcome to contact us at any of those mediums with requests, messages, comments. We're always happy to, respond. Yeah.
And we do get quite a bit of mail and requests and things like that. But they're always fun. We always love seeing your comments and hearing what you think about everything. But if you just want the blanket everything, link to everything, just go to our website, GothCast Radio, because it's going to have link to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, everything.
It's where we host all of our content.
Yeah. So it's very simple. We basically make everything available for your social media choice. So hope you've enjoyed this episode, and tune in next time for something very special.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. So everybody stay spooky.